Hey everyone, if you're watching this, I'm sure you're aware at this point of the beef between Drake and Pusha T and how Kanye got brought into that because Drake was having some issues with Kanye and Wyoming and what led up to the Drake diss on Infrared. So then we get Duddy Freestyle, then we get Story of Adidon, and coming out of Story of Adidon where Pusha T revealed to the world that Drake had a child was the theory that Kanye was the one that gave Pusha the info. And there's been a lot of debate the last few days about this, as we just had Drake the other day on LeBron's new show, The Shop, talk about his perspective on the situation and, what he thought happened and how it went down to him. And then just today, we had an episode released of Pusha T on the Joe Budden podcast that's 3.5 hours, which is insane. But a lot of it, they talk about Drake and the beef with Drake. And the big thing that came out of this was Pusha revealing who was the source of his information. And people have been arguing online today about this. You know, do you believe Drake? Do you believe Pusha? Who's lying? Who's telling the truth? And I just want to come through by saying both can be telling the truth. And let's run that theory out there. So we have Pusha coming in and saying the information came from 40. It didn't come from, and this is 40, Noah Shabib. The information came from 40. It didn't come from Kanye at all. 40 is sleeping with a woman who he talks to her daily, 5-6 hours a day, and ultimately speaks about how he's disgruntled about certain things, notoriety and things involving Drake and his career, and so on and so forth. With that also came the fact that Drake has a child. With that also came the trip that everybody took to go see the child and bring him gifts and all this information. She divulged this information. That's where it came from. And this had actually been talked about way back in June when people were first all over the place with like, did Kanye give Drake the information? And that theory was only out there because Drake was the one that said, I told Kanye about my son. That was the proof that people had to make the popular belief about the situation that Kanye was the one that told Pusha T. And as Drake talked about it in The Shop, he said, you know, he went out to meet with Kanye and work with him, and he played Kanye the track March 14th, which is the track that was going to reveal to the world on Scorpion that Drake had a son. He sent Kanye a picture of his son and actually spent time talking with Kanye because Drake and Adonis's mother, Sophie, don't have a good relationship, or at least we're in a tumultuous space at that time. So he's asking Kanye for advice on that situation. Drake had no other proof, no other evidence. The only thing he was relying on was Occam's razor. The simplest answer is probably the correct answer. And in this case, the simplest answer was Drake told Kanye about this stuff. Drake and Pusha get into a beef. Drake insults Kanye in the beef. Kanye told Pusha. That was the logic chain. But we know from Kanye being like, I didn't care. I didn't listen to any of the songs. I don't care about the beef. I'm not concerned with that. I'm Ye. I'm off doing Ye things. Like, they can beef all they want. Like, just leave me out of it. That doesn't sound like a man that was like upset and wanted to give this information to Pusha. There's a theory going on that maybe Kanye didn't mean to, that he was just talking about it and Pusha had been around and got it. But Pusha from the beginning was saying, yo, I got the info from somebody in Drake's camp. Other people from Good Music were saying that. And even Angela Yee from, I think 107, Hot 107, one of the big hip-hop radio stations. She has a rumor report, and she said she heard from sources that she trusts that the source is actually a young lady who knows Drake. So That would support this unless all of that is coming from, Pusha and good music. So this is why people have been back and forth. Do you believe Drake in saying, it's Occam's razor? The simplest answer is Kanye. And of course, Kanye would deny it and Pusha would say that he got it from this information or got it from this source. Like, you don't believe that. And people that want to believe Kanye or Pusha are going like, no, this makes total sense. Like, pillow talk is a well-documented issue when it comes to secrets getting out. That there will be men and women that will say things to people that they're sleeping with that they wouldn't normally say to others. And when those relationships end, the people in the inner circle aren't going to be going out and saying anything. But those people that got to hear the pillow talk, they may not have the same loyalty. So let's say both of them are telling the truth. What Drake's saying doesn't negate what Pusha's saying, because all Drake's saying is, I told Kanye, and I think then he told Pusha. That's it. There's no evidence. It's not like he's saying that Kanye told him that he did it, or that he has an email from it, or that people in Kanye's camp told him. There's none of that. It's just, I told Kanye, then Pusha knew months later, by the way. With there being more and more information getting out into the world that Drake has a son. Sophie wasn't necessarily quiet about it. She was posting on social media about it. Her friends knew about it. Malia Michael, who is actually Drake's ex-girlfriend and friends with Sophie, was very upset about how Drake was treating Sophie, and people thought she may have been the one that leaked the information to Pusha. Rory, so this portion of the conversation happens 25 minutes into the podcast, and at 34 minutes, Rory brings it back and says, why did she give you the information? Which is a good question. To which Pusha says she didn't know what she was doing. She didn't know she was going to be giving it to me for this. She was just talking. And, right place, right time kind of thing. You might think that that sounds suspicious, that couldn't happen, that it makes more sense, again, Occam's razor, that it was Kanye. But I think both are equally as plausible. And that's the thing, like, right now it's just a he said, he said. Drake's only evidence is Kanye knew. That's the source. Pusha's giving something that takes, more steps in the equation. Like, 40 told this girl who I just happened to have contact with or know somebody that spoke with her. But strange things happen in the world all the time. And if you're in the middle of a rap beef, I'm pretty sure you get a bit more active in looking for information on someone. An example of that, and maybe I shouldn't cite Pusha, but Pusha talks about how Drake put out $100,000 for information on Pusha T, and was calling people that Pusha knew, that Pusha had worked with, that may have dirt on him for that information, and got nothing from them. Maybe that happened, maybe it didn't, but Joe doesn't seem shocked about that. And we know Joe's reputation in the rap game, that he was part of it for a while, and even he's just like, pillow talk, of course pillow talk, and seems not fazed by the idea of researching somebody and what information you could get, because in a rap beef, you're looking at how you can hit hard to somebody. And what better way to hit hard than to get something that you shouldn't know. And when you put that into the record, they're like, oh, fuck, how did they get that? Because it's that double punch of like, they're calling me out for that. They know that. But that means somebody close to me also had to have been the source. And Pusha said that he sat on it for so long, or didn't try correcting the record for so long, just because he thought that there was silence, or that there was power in silence. But after he heard Drake on The Shop talking about it and turning the narrative in his favor, that this was no longer a loss for him, but he had taken the high road, and that Pusha was actually the one that went too far by wishing death upon Drake's friend. And just maybe it's unfair to call Drake's perspective on things into question. But Drake's saying in this that, you know, Pusha wished death on my friend, which is 40. 40 has been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, which is a degenerative neurological disease. It's not pretty, and it can, you know, lead to an early demise. So he's saying Pusha wished death on 40. You read the lines, OVO 40 hunched over like he 80, tick, tick, tick. How much time he got, that man is sick, sick, sick. Those are cruel lines. I mean, that's a dick thing to say. You're just like, hey, remember, your friend's dying. You can absolutely say like, damn, man, that's harsh. But that's not wishing death. That's not being like, yo, I hope the multiple sclerosis wins or like goes faster or anything like that. That would be even more fucked up. So I think there's at least degrees of fucked upness in this situation, but it just shows that Drake's interpretation of this was he wished death upon my friend, when that's not what the lyrics say. And then we also know that he's saying, oh, Kanye was the one that told him. And you're like, how do you know it was Kanye? And he's just like, well, I told Kanye. So it had to have been Kanye, right? Not, it could have been these other people. It could have been this or that. Pusha may have had his own sources. No, it just had to be Kanye. So I think to me, that's like 0 for 2 in Drake's perspective on the situation. And then there's other stuff with what he was describing about Kanye regarding Wyoming, like with the Lift Yourself beat, okay? He said he had gone to Kanye and they had this meeting, and Kanye said he wanted to Quincy Jones for Drake, you know, produce music, help guide him. And he got Drake's release dates and heard some of his music and gave him Lift Yourself as kind of this, you know, put this on the album. And a couple months after that, he gets this text from Kanye that says, bro, I love you. And then Lift Yourself, the song, drops on the radio with scoopity whoop, whoop-diddy scoop, poop. And Drake's reaction to this, at least how he describes it in the shop, isn't to be like, Kanye, what's going on? What did you mean by that? Like, should I not use the song? Like, what were you thinking? Instead, he says, oh, this dude's been trying to break me. Like, this was a whole thing he was doing to me. He's fucking with me. Okay, I know what this is now. That's a very bold reading of the situation. And that could be what happened, mind you. But there's also other ways it could have gone down. It could be that Kanye thought that the track was just a track that he could make better, that it was just one of dozens that he could give to Drake. So even if he burned this one trolling Ebro, it would at least be something that he could make up to Drake later. It could be that he thought releasing this in this way would make it an even bigger deal when Drake had it on the album, because people would be expecting it on Kanye's album, but then it actually shows up on Drake's. Like, how awesome would that have been to hear Drake actually go over it and make it a song? Maybe that's not what Kanye was thinking. But I think there are other potential ways that Kanye could have been viewing that he thought it was more harmless than a direct, like, oh, I have this plot, I'm going to give him this track, and then a few months from now, when he's already done writing on it, I'm going to ruin it. That's how I show Drake, like, fuck you. It could have happened, but that seems so petty. But that was Drake's reading of the situation. So he misreads these lyrics. He misreads, I think, or at least assumes the most negative interpretation of Lift Yourself, and potentially assumes that Kanye's the source for Pusha without any proof, and then puts that narrative out there and helps shape that. And Pusha, just hearing this and watching Drake get this sympathy for days on social media is just like, no, I'm not going to take this. Like, fuck you. You think you're winning right now and like turning the narrative for you. I'm going to go on Joe Budden and I'm going to let people know what really happened, because what really happened is going to disappoint you, because it was your friend that gave me the information. So with all that said, I think Drake's perspective on it doesn't mean that he was lying. He could have really believed it was Kanye, while it's still being this girl that Pusha said gave him or somebody he knew the information without realizing what was going to be done with it. And that's how you kind of justify Drake's perspective on it with what Pusha said. With that said, I don't know shit. It could be that Drake's right. It could be that Pusha's right. I'm just trying to add a little bit more perspective to this all and maybe help people come to a different view on it, or rationalize some of the things that might have bothered them about discrepancies in the stories. So I hope that helps. If you enjoyed the channel, subscribe. I would appreciate that. And our podcast releases episodes every Tuesday and Friday. And for the next few Tuesdays, we're doing lyrical and narrative song analyses of, Gone, Homecoming, Big Brother, Pinocchio Story, and Who Will Survive in America. And these are the deepest analytical dives that you're going to get on Kanye's music. We've produced the largest body of scholarly work on Kanye as an artist and the meaning of his albums. So if you haven't checked out the podcast, do so on iTunes. All the episodes get uploaded here to YouTube. You can just catch our Violent Crimes and Kids See Ghosts bonus episode. They're really good. They're really good. And we just recorded our Cuddy montage episode, which will come out this next Tuesday. Yeah, so thanks for watching. If you have any questions, leave them below. And if you have other content episodes you want me to make on topics that you want some perspective on, leave a comment and I will get to them at some point. But thanks for watching. Have a good night.